Hi, and welcome to your ETC series, and we're talking about cues, and in this video we want to talk about cue timing and how we can adjust timing. So let's jump right in. Right, so here's our simple little cue stack that we had, right, and our live table view shows us what's going on with our individual channels, and our playback display shows us the cues that we have created. All right, so lovely, right? So let's go ahead and call up our virtual keyboard, and let's say go to cue 1, enter. All right, and so that's lovely, and our show has been working just fine. I'll go ahead and close this, and I'll hit the space bar. Space bar runs Q2. Let's go over and even look and see what's happening here on our other tab. And I hit go Q again, and it actually fades those channels down and holds the other. And then Q4 is our fade to black at the end of this scene. And if we look, we'll see that it takes 5 seconds for it to complete. Well, 5 seconds is way too long. That's the default time within the console, right? Now, sometimes it's too long, sometimes it's too short. The time is relative, right? But in this particular instance, we would like that to be actually a button. We would like that to be a bump to black. And right now, our default time is set to 5. So every single cue that we have recorded has been at this default time of 5. And I would like to change that time. Well, we have a time parameter. And if I go to my virtual keyboard, right, we will see in our memory area to the left of our numeric keypad at the bottom is a button called time. I have this cue selected. I am currently in Q4, and if I were just to say time, and let's make it a time 1, enter, right? You'll see that this value now has changed to a time 1. Everything else is still in its time 5. And let's go back and let's see what this looks like, right? So I'm just going to hit Control Space Bar, and I go back to Q3. Now when I hit the go button, everything happens in a time 1. It happens much faster. Now, it still didn't happen fast enough for what we want. We want everything to happen as fast as possible. So at this point, I'll hit time 0, enter. For any cue that you are in, that you're actively playing back, when you modify time, you'll be modifying the time for that specific cue. Yes? So now let's hit back, and let's see what happens when we run Q4. Boom. Everything happens instantly. We can put in extraordinarily long times. We can put in up to 99 hours and 59 minutes, 59 seconds. Right, so almost a 100-hour fade. I don't know that anyone ever needs a 100-hour fade. The time displayed is going to be listed in seconds, and it'll stay listed in seconds, I think, until you hit 1 minute, at which point it'll be a well, here, let's just do it. Let's say time 90, enter. Right? So it shows me that that is at 1 minute and 30 seconds, right? And as we get bigger, we don't need to account for that. Let's say time 300, enter, right? So at time 300, that's not, at 300 would be 240 seconds. That's showing 3 minutes. As soon as we get much over like 90 or even 100, I think as soon as you get over 90 seconds, it's going to switch and it's going to show you in minutes and then seconds. So time 3 or 5:15, right? And you can see that that's going to make it a time of 5 minutes and 15 seconds. So anything over 90, I believe, toggles over to minutes and seconds. And let's say enter. And now how about time 0? We'll put it back to our 0 count. Okay, so that's time, right? Let's look at our cue list over here though. And it says that I have an uptime and a downtime, right? There is a difference between how fast things fade up in a cue versus how fast things fade down in a cue, right? And so I'm not 100% sure. Control back, if I look, right, it looks like I have tracking here, and I have things in Q2 that went up. Let's go ahead and make a change. Let's say, what if channel 28, right? Let's say 28, out, enter, right? And now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say record. I do not need to hit the Q. I'm already in active Q2. It's going to assume that I want to record that channel. Record, enter. It's asking me to please confirm that I'm recording an existing Q. All right. And so now what I have in Q2, right, I have lights that came up in Q1. I run Q2 and I have lights that came up and lights that go out. And they all happen in that default 5 count. Now, what would happen if I want these lights to bump on, to come on in a 0 count, while channel 28 fades out in a 5 count? I want to change how fast things fade in versus how fast they fade out. We can do this really easy. We have multiple timing parameters. Again, we have intensity up and intensity down. So the first time I hit the time button, let's say that my time up is going to be 0. Now, hit the time button again. Don't hit enter yet. Just hit the time button again. And it will show us a down time. So let's give it a down time of 5 and say enter. You'll now see that I have split time. I have an up time and a down time, an intensity up and an intensity down. Let's look and see how this happens. Let's go back and play. Remember, channel 28 is going to be going down, and I think it goes down in a 5 count, and the channels in the 50 are going to bump on. They're going to come on in a 0 count, and go. These channels bumped on. This channel fades in a 5 count. That's split time. If I have entered a split time and suddenly I decide, you know what, I don't want a split time on that. I just want to go back to having one time in that. If you hit time, enter, it will default it back to whatever it's the default value that you have set, right? And in this case, it's automatically set to a 5. It will default that back. Let's go ahead and make a new, let's split its time again. And again, you press time once for the up value. And let's say we want this time it to be a 1 and hit time again. This will now be the intensity down, 7, enter. So now it's going to fade up in a 1 count and down in a 7 count. Let's go back. And we see that the lights faded up in a 1 count, and this is taking a nice leisurely 7 count. It's a very useful tool. Okay, so I'm going to leave you, let's look at our playback list just so that you can see what's happening here. And why don't we go ahead and we can leave this video at this time. That's cue timing. Thanks so much.